Hello, hello there. So I don't often do reviews in English, but I'm going to do one tonight because I have recently seen. Well, I saw opening night the Fantastic Four movie, and I've got some thoughts to share about it. Mostly just as therapy. I was a fan of Fantastic Four back in the '80s. I read John Byrne's run. I still have some of them, and I know really grew to really enjoy the comic and its stories. And I read the Jack Kirby originals up to issue 100. And my friend J-Man did a wonderful, J-Man, Sean and Clubby, God rest his soul, did a wonderful review of those issues. So you should check out the stream on J-Man's channel. Worth watching if you want to know something about the Fantastic Four and about Jack Kirby. So I'm going to talk a little bit about this film. I'm going to try and keep this short because, well, there's been lots said about it already. And I feel like I'm only adding a little bit to the discourse. But anyway, so I'll do it in English. All right. I'm going to go through the film and talk about first positives, then stuff that's a bit mixed, and then finish with the negatives. So if you love the film, you can shut off after a couple of minutes because I'll talk about the positives first. So my first positive is the visuals. I think everyone's praised the retro futurist look. It looks brilliant, amazing. If they win awards for the design, I completely agree. Brilliant. Just they've captured something really special. The Galactus as the look is perfect. I don't think you could do a better representation physically of Galactus. His character we'll get to eventually. The Surfer, I think, was the one standout that kind of looked a bit so-so in terms of its rendering, but it was all right. Yeah, the Fantastic Four, the world they inhabit, the technology, Galactus himself, his world he inhabits, his ship, technology looks great. Another positive is the score. I mean, Michael Giacchino is very dependable. I don't think it was one of his most memorable scores, but I think it was a pretty good one. And he can compose music that generates emotion. So he did the Star Trek films and did a great job. So yeah, a solid Michael Giacchino film score. Right. So mixed now. Those are my big positives. And now I'm going to move on to things that are mixed, and I'd like to start with the characters. I'm going to start with the best character in the film, who gets the least amount of screen time, and that is the Mole Man. Surprisingly, I mean, it's that guy from Cobra Kai, Stingray, and he's brilliant as Mole Man. I mean, Mole Man's only on screen for about 60 seconds, and he puts Reed and Johnny in their place with a single line of dialogue. He's brilliant. Yeah, I never thought I'd go to a Fantastic Four film and say, could have used more Mole Man. But anyway, moving on. The Thing, generally positive. I quite liked Eben Moss-Bachrach's take on The Thing. I think he's a very good actor. He wasn't comic accurate. I can't do Lower East Side sort of accent, so I won't even try. But I mean, The Thing's kind of a self-insert Jack Kirby character, and he needed to maybe lean into that a little bit more. The Thing is a bit of a tormented character, and that didn't really come through. Um, he was just kind of jovial and quite friendly, and I liked him. He had a nice Jewish girlfriend. They retained that part of his identity, which I thought was good. Yeah, so generally good character. Uh, Sort of mid-range character was Johnny. I mean, I have to say Chris Evans was a lot better in the role, a lot more charm, a little bit more of a daredevil and a ladies' man. Johnny was very bland. His hair was terrible. Um, and yeah, Quinn did what he could, but not a real standout character. And the Ben Johnny dynamic was far better in the 2005 2007 films. Michael Chiklis, I would give the edge to in Thing portrayal, but his dynamic with Johnny, him and Chris Evans, they had a great dynamic that made those films a lot more fun. I mean, visually, those films were not anywhere near as striking as this movie, but the characters were a little more likable. All right, now we're heading to characters that are not so positive. Sue. All right. So the Fantastic Four's heart and soul is kind of Sue, that she needs to be quite a warm character. And yeah, she was assertive, more assertive than Jessica Alba was, perhaps. Not as pretty, but she was also kind of. I don't get the vibe that she was particularly a warm character, right? I mean, if you compare her to in superhero film roles, Gal Gadot, while not a particularly good actress, was very warm and charming as Wonder Woman, and I think Sue needed a bit more of that. Yeah, she played her as a diplomat, but I think she needed to be a more engaging character. And well, we're going to get to my final, most negative thing, which is Galactus at the end. And I didn't appreciate Sue defeating Galactus with by girl bossing Mother Bear energy, I guess. Because that sort of really undermines what his character's about. Look, I'll get to that in a minute. So, was Vanessa Kirby better than Jessica Alba? She's a better actress. You know, okay performance, but Jessica Alba was more likable. And I think the Fantastic Four, we have to like them. It's very important. And before I get to Reed Richards, who actually was my least favorite character, um, I want to talk about Sue and Reed dynamic, which I think was lacking a bit. I mean, their interactions didn't scream to me. I've been married 18 years, and their interactions did not scream to me of people who have a deep relationship, have been married a long time. Some of it was good. I thought the opening wasn't bad actually, but yeah, where Sue and Reed have sort of a fight, and she yells at him how she hates that he is practical, and then he wails about it. That's really off. So okay, the worst character in the film. I'm not going to talk about Galactus and Silver Surfer as characters because they're pretty much just plot devices. They get almost no development whatsoever. They're really just plot devices. But Reed's character, and Reed suffers from what this film suffers from, which is the show versus tell dichotomy. Right? We are told that Reed is the world's smartest man, and then we see him make incredibly stupid choices. We're told he's the scientific genius, but he acts like an idiot. And his voice is weak. He appears indecisive. I mean, his plan to teleport the Earth. Oh, come on. I mean, even if you put the physics of making that possible aside, you think about, so Earth's now in a different part of the galaxy. What are the chances you're going to find a spot that's a Goldilocks zone, like the one we live in? Not too hot, not too cold. Because any small mistake would be the extinction of life on Earth, right? So it's just too preposterous an idea. And of course, at the start of the film, he uses all the power in New York just to move an egg. Where's he going to get the energy to move the whole planet? It's just, yeah, it's wrong. So that's the decision making. That's the characterization. And I have to say that Johan Grufford was better. Now, of course, I'm a hugely biased because Johan Grufford is Welsh and a terrific actor. But there's a scene in Fantastic Four 2007 where his intellectual authority is challenged by the General, played by Andre Braugher, rest in peace. And Grufford Reed, very calmly, without raising his voice, he puts the General in his place and explains to him who's really in charge, who's really understands what's going on. And he does it really well. And Reed needed a moment like that in this film and never got it. One of the other incredibly stupid decisions he made, taking his heavily pregnant wife in a dangerous mission in space to confront a creature that devours planets, does not seem sensible to me. And then when they get back, at the press conference, he announces to everyone that Galactus made an offer to spare the Earth if they gave him Franklin, one life to save billions. And he could not foresee any possible things going wrong with making such an admission, which was incredibly stupid as well. I mean, what did he think was going to happen? So there's that. Yeah. I could go on and talk more about Reed and his plans and his stupidity, but I do want to keep this reasonably short. Now, there's some other stupid things in the film. I mean, the time Galactus takes to get to Earth, that the Fantastic Four to have a month away from Earth to get to Galactus and get back, and that time Galactus has not arrived. I mean, was he really taking some stops along the way? You could argue that the Silver Surfer was trapped in a singularity and he waited for her to escape. I mean, there's some questions of the physics around that. How could she not escape when they could? And of course, they use the faster than light drive to distract the Silver Surfer, and Sue makes him invisible while she's giving birth, which again doesn't make a lot of sense. But then it's destroyed, and they return using fast and light. It doesn't make sense. It's nuts. Anyway, yeah, the teleportation plan I've talked about, um, it's just ridiculous. And of course, if you've got that technology to teleport massive objects, incredible distances in space, perhaps you could use that in more constructive ways, like teleport a massive bomb onto Galactus's ship. All right, so that was a major problem. Pedro Pascal, I thought was miscast. He didn't bring. I mean, he's a good actor, but he didn't bring sort of the gravitas, and I never got the sense, the feeling. This is someone who's incredibly intelligent. He didn't pull it off. So yeah, um, we'll go into a couple of plot points that I wasn't too happy with, and then I'll finish by talking about Galactus. So one plot point that really bothered me was the surface change of heart. Now, putting aside that Johnny deciphers her entire language based on a single phrase in a few weeks with very little reference, okay, fine. He basically plays her, you know, a recording of her visits to planets that she's helped destroy, or she's led Galactus to destroy. Now, this is a real departure from. So I'm not going to talk about the gender swap. I think it was a mistake because 99.9% of the Silver Surfer's appearances are as a male character. This is like a one-off variant from Earth X, which was so-so anyway. All right, though. The Silver Surfer's female, fine. Maybe it's so she and Johnny can have a moment. I don't know. Anyway, so Johnny plays her greatest hits, but it's not news to her. This is not something new. She knows that. She was there. She's aware of her crimes, right? So why is this time different? Because the plot requires it to be so, right? Now, this is really cutting into the original story written by Jack Kirby, where the Silver Surfer, as a male, is after being injured, is taken in by Alicia Masters, who's dropped from the film altogether. The Thing's blind girlfriend, who's a wonderful character, and she brings the Surfer something new. She introduces him to humanity, and he finds that within himself, and of course, that makes his rebellion more believable and more compelling against Galactus. Whereas in the film, it's just because it's time for her to turn good because the plot says so. Yeah, not great. All right, we're going to get on to the gigantic kaiju-sized problem with this film, and it's Galactus. He's billions of years old. He's a cosmic being that destroys worlds. So we are told, again, this is the show and tell dichotomy. We are told he's this massive threat, but we are shown him being a moron. We are shown him get out of his ship himself to retrieve Franklin. Now, did he not have telekinesis earlier in the film? He could move the surfer around by thinking about it. In the comics, Galactus has this phenomenal cosmic power. In addition to his enormous size, he can rearrange matter. He can levitate objects. Shoot blasts of energy, stuff like that. So he's a very, very powerful entity. None of which appeared in the film. I guess he was, as people say, he was nerf Galactus. Okay, but going to retrieve Franklin himself makes no sense. Send the surfer. Use a tractor beam or something. No robot minions at all? Yeah, so it seems, okay, not great. So he leaves the ship and he walks right up to a skyscraper-sized Wile E. Coyote style trap. I mean, come on. This is a billions of years old being, and he's acting like a moron. And then he's essentially overpowered mostly by Sue. Now, in Kirby's idea behind creating Galactus was to create a villain, or not even a villain, but a threat, was so powerful it could not be overcome, could not be overpowered by force. Like the Fantastic Four would have to come up with something different. They'd have to come up with a way around him. People say they outsmart Galactus. I disagree with that. I think that's mischaracterizing how they beat him. They find leverage, right? I mean, the original story is the ultimate nullifier, which is because the Watcher intervenes. But yeah, there's a more compelling, a more believable reason that it's better that way, that they don't have the power to defeat him, but they find a way, right? So again, here Galactus is horribly nerfed. He's reduced to a very stupid kaiju, and he's just, well, he's not really credible as this enormous threat they've made him out to be. I mean, in the comics, he should be able to disintegrate Sue by just blinking at her. All right. So yeah, that was a bit of an issue. All right. Um, there's some other plot points. I mean, like if you know a gigantic creature is going to walk through the city, why would you evacuate people to shelters underneath it? Anyway, um, yeah, that was a real problem for me, and it sort of ruined the end of the film. I mean, I really wanted to like this movie, but some of those egregious, stupid moments, like teleporting the Earth and taking Sue to space, and then admitting, "Oh, well, Galactus offered us a choice," all those things really soured me on this film. I do hope it succeeds. I do hope it makes money because who knows, the next Fantastic Four film might be better. I mean, I like superhero films, and I hope they continue for a long time. And again, as I said, the big positive is the look of this film. It looks amazing. So, yeah, I do hope it succeeds. But yeah, I could only give it a 4 out of 10. And I will add as my last bit. Um, so Sue keels over from her overexertion at girl boss and Galactus into the portal, and she's dead for about 30 seconds. And this is not the actress performance, the characterization of Sue. It's this the stupidity of the writers and the story. I mean, Sue's dead for 30 seconds, and then baby ex machina occurs. Now that's a phrase I come up with, and my friend Dark Hour used it in one of his videos. Baby ex machina, where Franklin just makes it all right and resurrects her, which makes you wonder, could he have done other things? I mean, the whole Franklin thing raises so many questions. I mean, Reed could have given if Galactus's hunger would have been removed by Franklin. If Reed had given Franklin to him, yes, he would have lost his son, but he could have spared trillions and trillions of lives in future from all the planets Galactus is going to destroy. So there's some interesting moral choices there. Anyway, um, ends with the car seat, which felt really tonally disconnected. And that scene went on way too long. Um, that's why I've kind of called this review Fantastic Four FFS. I mean, I don't want to curse in this review because some of my listeners are young people, and it's for F word's sake though, because that's how I was thinking when I saw that. I was like, oh, come on, don't end like that. Anyway, if you like the film, more power to you. I think it's great. But to me, it was cosmically beautiful, but had brains of complete rocks. It was galactically stupid. All right. Thanks very much for listening. All the best. Nos da.